Hi everyone, this is Lee from Smart Excel Tools LLC. Today's video is an introduction to one of the most powerful tools used in Six Sigma, the Pareto Chart. The Pareto Chart is one of Joseph Duran's 7 basic tools of quality, and it's basically a sorted histogram with a cumulative percentage line used to visually depict defects by frequency. In a moment, I'll show you how to construct one in Microsoft Excel both manually or by using the free SmartSixSigma Toolkit add-in. But first, let's walk through the elements of a Pareto Chart. So I have one ready to go here so we can look at it. And there it is. And as I mentioned, it's a sorted histogram. So along the bottom axis, you have the categories of defect, and along the left vertical axis, you have the number of defects. So these bars are read using the left axis and the bottom axis. So, for example, length is the largest defect category, and there's 251 defects. You also have this black line. This is called the Pareto line or the cumulative percentage line, and you read that one looking at the right axis. So the right axis is the cumulative percent. So for example, these first two categories, length and width, have 251 defects and 247 defects respectively, and the cumulative percentage of those two categories of the total is 48%. Piece of cake. Those are the main elements of Pareto Chart. There's a couple of other elements you see on this one that you might not always see, and I'll talk about those here too. So, first of all, there's an other category. This is used to group together what I often call the trivial many. So, above a certain percentage, there may be a lot of little small defect categories, and maybe there's 20 of them or something, and you don't want this huge chart just showing you these little onesie-twosie defects, and so you lump them all together in an other. So in this case, you can see it looks like above 95%, I think. Yeah. So once 95% of the defects were explained, in this case, they lumped everything else together into one category. And the other element that's on here that you may not always see in a Pareto chart is different colors. So these first two bars are red, and that's typically done to show how many categories make up a certain percentage of the total. So in this case, I think they wanted to explain 50%. So we're at 48%. So these first two categories of defects explain about 50% of the defects. A lot of times you'll see 80% used. Some real nice looking Pareto charts, if you're lucky, will have this really steep drop down, and you can explain 80% with just a couple of categories. Great, so that's the basics of what a Pareto chart looks like. Let's see how to build one from scratch. So in Microsoft Excel, let's make a new workbook here. In Microsoft Excel, there's two ways to do this, and it depends on the version you have. So let's grab the data. We use the same data that we used for that example chart, and just paste that in here. So if you have version 2016, they've added a nice new chart here where you can just highlight these data, go to Insert, go to Insert Statistic Chart, and go to Histogram, and then go to Pareto. And you can see we've already pretty much got the chart we were looking at. You want to add some modifications as per your need, but it's pretty quick with that with this version of Excel. But let's say you don't have 2016 or 365, and you have an older version and you still want to build these. It's still pretty easy, so don't fret. I'll show you how to do it. You need two more columns of data in order to do it. One of them is the percent of defects, and the other one is the cumulative percentage line, otherwise known as the Pareto line. And I'll show you the formulas to build these. Super simple. So the first one is equal to the cell directly to the left divided by the sum of all of the cells, so this whole column of data. And we want to lock that using the little dollar symbols or pressing F4, which makes this an absolute reference. So now we can close it, hit enter, and two ways to copy it down. You can grab this and pull it down, or you can do what I like to do, which is just to double click there, and it just auto copies it down. And you can see each one of these cells is looking at the cell directly to the left of it and dividing it by all of the cells in the column directly to the left. So that's percent of defects. Now to get the cumulative percentage, we just need to total up everything to the left and above for each of these categories. the way to do that is to use an absolute reference again. So we're going to equal to this cell, and then we're going to press colon, and that'll automatically add in that cell again to the right of it. And once we close this, we then want to click on this cell reference here and hit F4 to lock that one and leave the other one open so that it's relative. Now when we copy these down, you can see that the second cell in this formula changes as we go down, but the first one stays the same, which means that we sum up everything to the left and above, which is exactly what we needed. Now, I like to turn these to percentages. You don't have to. It just makes things look cleaner to me. Great. Now we've got all the elements that we need to build the chart, or all the data that we need to build the chart. Let's put the chart together. So let's copy the defect category and the count. Go to Insert. What we want is what Excel calls the clustered column. I usually call it a bar chart, but we'll call it what Excel calls it. It's a clustered column. You can see we're already starting to look like the Pareto chart. We've got the basic look of it, but we need that cumulative percentage line on there, and we also need to make a couple other fixes. So a quick tip for you to get these cumulative percentage numbers on here: if we just highlight these data, hit Control-C just to copy them, click on the chart, left click on the chart, and then hit Control-V, you can see they're hard to see, but it put them in here. There are these little orange bars next to the big blue bars. So they're little because these are small numbers compared to the count of defects. So we need to get those on a secondary axis. And a lot of times it's hard to click. Let's see if I can do it. No. A lot of times it's hard to click them when they're small and next to the bottom axis like that. No fret. We can just click on another series, in this case series 1, the blue bars, and then press arrow up. So all I'm doing is pressing the arrow keys to switch between these series. So press it until you get to the series that you need. In this case we need this orange series, which is series 2. And you would then right click this, click Format Data Series, Secondary Axis, bam, now we can see them. But now we need to turn them into a line. So right click them again, and then click on Change Series Chart Type. In my version of Excel, you have this custom combination area here where you can click that you want a line. In some older versions of Excel, you would just click the line once you had that series chosen. If you do that in here, it'll change them both to a line, so don't do that if you have this version of Excel. But as you can see, now it's going to look a lot like that Pareto chart. So I'm going to click OK. Now we're getting there. From here, we need to make a few tweaks to make it look more like a standard Pareto chart. The first thing is, let's change this to go only up to 100%. So I right-clicked on the right axis. I'm going to click Format Axis. I'm going to change the maximum to 1. That means 100%. Hit Enter. Close this. Now I only go up to 100%. And then for the bars themselves, we want to right-click that, click Format Data Series, and we want to get them close to each other. So we're going to remove this gap width, just turn it into 0. Or you could experiment so this is like just a small percentage, which makes it look a lot cleaner. Also, the way I like to do it is to move them to 0 and then change the border to be a solid color like black. And to me, that looks a lot more like a classic Pareto chart. You can see there's a few things that aren't in this that were in the example. So the trivial many here have not been bucketed into a single category called Other. You could do that manually. And then the colors of the columns are all one color. You can change these manually as well. You just have to click once, then click again. So it's a left click to get the series, left click, then left click to pick the specific bar, and then a right click to change the data point. You click Format Data Point, go to Fill, Solid Fill. You can change it however you want. Then you can click any other data point, do the same thing here. So that's pretty quick. It takes a few minutes. Once you're used to doing this, manually, you could do it in a few minutes. But I also like to show you how to do it with the SmartSixSigma Toolkit add-in and show you how quick it can be. So let's do that. Let's click on SmartSixSigma, go to Pareto Chart, left click, We'll get our Pareto chart template up here. We'll use these same data. So we had the defect category and the count. We'll paste those in here. I like to use paste values. And then we want to consolidate, let's say if it's over 95%, and build a reference line above 50% so it matches the original chart that I showed you. And then you can put in a title here like defects at end of assembly, kind of making up something here, whatever it happens to actually be. And then click to update the Pareto chart, and you've got your Pareto chart ready to go. If you wanted to modify it, let's say you're not explaining enough here, you could say, I don't know, maybe the reference line should be 70%, and you'd update it, and you'd get up to 70%. Same thing with the other, let's say you want to explain it above 98%, change that, click that. Now we're only grouping it if it's over 98%. So that's how you do it in SmartSixSigma. If you want SmartSixSigma, if you want the SmartSixSigma Toolkit, please go to www.smartexceltools.com and you can download it for free. SmartSixSigma is a full suite of MS Excel-based Lean Six Sigma tools, and it's 100% donation-based. So you don't have to pay anything. We like it if you donate, but you're not required to. And if you don't donate, we won't hold it against you. Please just download it anyway. So now that we've gone through that, now that you have your Pareto chart, you would take this and you would focus on reducing defects, starting with the biggest categories here. That's typically the way these are used. If you want to take into account more than one axis, let's say you wanted to know both the number of defects and then maybe the cost per defect, and take both of those into account, there are ways to do that. I like to use a thing called quadrant chart, and I will describe that in a future video. But for now, I'll give you a quick peek of what that would look like. So here is a quadrant chart using the same data, only it also has a cost per defect involved. So these are the same data that we just looked at in that Pareto chart, and you can see down here is a defect count. Each of these dots is one of the categories. So this is the width up here. And going on this left axis now is the cost per defect. So how would you use this? Well, you'd say anything that sticks out as a high defect count and a high cost per defect, well, that's where I want to start first. So this may tell you to do something a little different than the Pareto chart. I think in this case it's telling you to start with width instead of length. I think on the Pareto chart, on the Pareto chart it wants you to start with length, right? In this case you would start with width. So I'm not going to explain this one today, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek, and we will definitely do a video about that one in the future. So that's it for now. If you like, please go download the software. Before you go, please follow me on YouTube, connect with me on LinkedIn, and feel free to join my group on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, excel intelligently. Bye.